Good morning, friends. It's Mrs. DeCruz again, and today it's very sunny out. Oh my goodness. You can see the weather today is beautiful. So I thought I would read some books outside today, like I did the other day, and I thought we'd go on a little nature hike to see how the plants are growing in my yard. Now, first of all, I have a few books that I'm going to read. These are brand new books that I just got the other day from my friend Eleanor. And this book is called Colors of Ethiopia. And then the second book is called I Can Help. And then there are two other books that I got from my library. And these books are called The Grump on the Stump and Grace for President. So today I'll read 4 books and we'll do a field trip around my yard. So anyways, let's start our walk around and let's check out the plants. And look right here. These are really starting to grow. These are purple hyacinth. I couldn't remember the name the other day, but I remember now. And these smell beautiful when they're fully grown. So they're growing. They're bigger than last time. And look, the sedum, that's also growing more. Got a lot of things that are starting to grow. Have you noticed things growing and changing outside? Have you noticed the trees? They're starting to bud. Let's go look at some trees. Look here. Wow, they're more than just buds at this point. I see the beginning of leaves. The other day they were just little buds, and now I'm seeing more and more things popping out. Oh, interesting. Oh yes, and these are looking beautiful. They're in full bloom and they smell so nice. Can you hear the wind in the background? It's chiming my chimes. Hold on just a moment. Whoop. Okay, our next book is called I Can Help. Now, boys and girls, I had to put a jacket on because the sun is behind a very large cloud. And what happens is when the sun goes behind a cloud, it gets a little cool and it's a little breezy. So I got a little chill. And that's nature. I Can Help. And this book is in English and Amharic. Okay. And let's see, the author of this book is Frihiwat Addis, and also the illustrator. The creative directors are Caroline Kurtz, Jane Kurtz, and Kenny Rasmussen. Translator is Alam Eshitu Bayene, and the designer is Beth Crow. So thank you for all that hard work. And again, this is an Open Hearts Big Dreams book. I Can Help. One day, a mother sent a girl to the shop to buy bread. "Take good care of our money," she said. "Oh, poor duck," the girl said. "I can help you." "Here you go," the girl said. "You are free." "Thank you," the duck said. "You saved me." They had a lovely time passing the ball back and forth. Oh, jeekers. I'm sorry. I missed a page. Didn't seem right. Just then the girl saw her friend. "Let's play in the water," her friend said. This makes better sense. They had a lovely time passing the ball back and forth. But when they got out of the water, the money was nowhere to be found. "Oh no," the girl said, "my mom will be so upset." The two girls looked everywhere. "I can't go home without the bread for my mother," the girl said. "Wait," said her friend. "What is this duck doing?" "I know how to help you," the duck said. The duck found the coin in the water. The girls were very happy. "Thank you," the girls said. "First I helped you, now you helped me." Ooh. This is the author and illustrator. Oh, it's a nice story. Okay. About the story, people from many cultures and many different times have created stories illustrating the saying, "One good turn deserves another." One of the most well-known of Aesop's fables, for example, involves a lion and a mouse. For this story, set in Ethiopia, the author chose a girl and a helpful duck. Many different types of ducks, geese, and other waterfowl live in many different parts of Ethiopia and are familiar to children who walk by ponds and lakes. Excellent. I love this story. And then this talks about the author and illustrator, Freya Watt. What a wonderful book. All right. Great book. All right. And now the next book is called The Grump in the Stump by Jenny Du. Illustrations by David Nimitz. Creative directors Lee Baker and Stephen Sobieski. The Grump in the Stump. The Grump in the Stump. Little Melissa Cora McGrew had an awful thing happen when she was just 2. No one knew what had happened. It must have been bad, for poor Melissa seemed to be really mad. Her mom and her dad bought her toys and great food to make Melly happy and change her mad mood. They planned family trips and they went to fun places, but all their hard work just made Melly pull faces. Then one day she looked out her window and saw an old stump at the end of the lane, the most marvelous spot in the whole wide world, where Melissa felt she could sit in the rain. So she marched down the street through the rain and the mud. And she proudly plopped down with a thundering thud. It didn't matter what people would say. She would sit there quite proudly, and there she would stay. Then two little girls came to see her one day. One was named Cindy, the other was Fay. They smiled and they begged her to come off and play. But Melissa growled and they hurried away. I don't care what they say. I don't care what they do. I'll just sit on the stump and I'll chew on my shoe. It wasn't much longer the boys came along. They teased her and laughed, then sang a mean song. Melissa kicked them. She wasn't a wimp. Even Billy Joe Bunter walked off with a limp. I don't care what they say. I don't care what they see. I'll just sit on this stump and I'll scowl at this bee. A skunk happened by and he smelled pretty bad, but that ornery young girl wouldn't move. Oh, how sad. So he lifted his tail and he started to spray. You can only imagine what Melly did say. I don't care what they think. I don't care if I stink. I'll just sit on this stump and I won't even blink. Oh no, Melly. Then a funny thing happened. She couldn't believe it. That little girl Cindy came back down the lane. She plugged her nose and sat down beside her, then waited for Smelly to start to complain. The grump did not know what to do. Should I ask her to leave or start thinking things through? Why did you come back? I am mean and I'm bad. All I can do is make people real mad. Cindy just laughed at that silly old thought. You're the only one mad. All the others are not. You see, at one time I was just like you. I was mad deep inside and I made myself blue. I scowled at the bees and I chewed on my shoe, but I realized the wonderful things I could do if I got off my stump and I tried something new. So I've changed and I'm happy. I run and I play. I have many friends now and they want me to stay. Now, Melissa didn't sit there for one more whole day, but she couldn't ignore what her new friend did say. She jumped off that stump and she knew what to do. Now she's happy, Melissa Cora McGrew. The end. Isn't that nice? A friend helped her out. Maybe she needed to sit on that stump for a little bit, but then when she was ready, she took her friend's advice and she made a good friend and then felt a whole lot better. What a good story, huh? All right. Okay. I had to come inside because my neighbor is doing yard work out there and it's kind of noisy. So, all right. And now my last book is Grace for President. And it was written by Kelly DiPuccio and pictures by Liyun Fan. All right. Grace for President. One Monday morning in September, Mrs. Barrington rolled out a big poster with all of the president's pictures on it. Grace Campbell could not believe her eyes. Where are the girls? That is a very good question, said Mrs. Barrington. The truth is, our country has never had a woman president. No girl president ever? Grace asked. No, I'm afraid not, said Mrs. Barrington. Grace sat at her desk and stewed. No girls? Who'd ever heard such a crazy thing? Finally, she raised her hand. Yes, Grace? I've been thinking it over, and I'd like to be president. Several students in the class laughed. Well, I think that's a star-spangled idea, Grace, said Mrs. Barrington. In fact, we can have our own election right here at Woodrow Wilson Elementary. The snickering in the room stopped. Grace smiled. Would anyone else like to run for president? Mrs. Barrington asked the class. Nobody raised their hand. Becoming president was going to be easy, Grace thought. The next day, Mrs. Barrington made an announcement. In the name of democracy, I have invited Mr. Waller's class to join in our election. Their class had nominated Thomas Cobb to be their presidential candidate. Grace's heart sank. Thomas was the school spelling bee champ. His experiments always took a blue ribbon at the science fair, and he was captain of the soccer team. Becoming president wasn't going to be so easy after all, Grace thought. The teachers put the names of all 50 states in the District of Columbia into a hat. Everyone except for Grace and Thomas got to choose a state. I'm Texas, said Anthony. I'm New Hampshire, said Rose. I'm Michigan, said Robbie. What does the number 17 mean? Each state is assigned a number of electoral votes. That number is determined by how many people live in that state, said Mrs. Barrington. Each of you will be a representative for your state. Altogether, our country has 538 electoral votes. Mr. Waller explained, on election day, the candidate who receives 270 electoral votes or more wins the election. That's more than half of all the electoral votes, Mr. Waller said. Why 270? Asked Rose. Whoops, sorry. Becoming president really wasn't going to be so easy, Grace thought. Grace came up with a campaign slogan. Thomas came up with his own campaign slogan. Grace's is "Make history, vote for Grace Campbell for president." And then Thomas's is "Vote for Thomas Cobb, the best man for the job." Grace listened to what issues were important to the students, and she made a list of campaign promises. Thomas made his own promises. Grace made campaign posters and buttons. Thomas made posters and buttons too. Grace's says, "A peaceful school, no bullies. A cleaner school, no littering. Better hot lunches, no more fish stick tacos." And then Thomas's, "Free tutoring, free soccer lessons, fish stick tacos every week." Each week, the teacher set aside time for the candidates to meet with their constituents. Polls were taken, voters were making their choices. Grace continued to campaign. At recess, she gave speeches. During lunch, she handed out free cupcakes. After school, she held rallies. Meanwhile, Thomas wasn't worried. He had cleverly calculated that the boys held slightly more electoral votes than the girls. At recess, Thomas studied his spelling words. During lunches, he worked on his latest science experiment. After school, he played soccer. Even before the election, Grace made good on her promises. She joined the safety squad, she organized the school beautification committee, and she volunteered her time in the school cafeteria. In early November, Woodrow Wilson Elementary School hosted a special Election Day assembly. Grace and Thomas took their places on stage as the school band began to play. Henry was the first representative to approach the microphone. The Yellowhammer state of Alabama casts its 9 electoral votes for Thomas Cobb. Fletcher said, "The last frontier state of Alaska casts its 3 electoral votes for the best man for the job, Thomas Cobb." Hannah called out, "The Grand Canyon state of Arizona casts its 10 electoral votes for Grace Campbell." And so it went. State after state after state cast their electoral votes. The scoreboard in the gymnasium kept track of the totals. The voting demonstration was quickly coming to an end. Clara approached her podium. "The Badger State of Wisconsin casts its 10 votes for my best friend, Grace Campbell." Grace looked at the scoreboard. Thomas had 268 electoral votes. She had 267. There was only one state still unaccounted for: Wyoming. Thomas grinned. Grace felt sick. Sam walked up to the microphone. He looked at Thomas. He looked at Grace. He looked down at Grace's handmade flag. She didn't say a word. What are you waiting for? Thomas whispered. The band stopped playing. All eyes were on Wyoming. Finally, Sam cleared his throat. The equality state of Wyoming casts its 3 electoral votes for who do you think, boys and girls? Should I stop the book here? Should I continue reading? What do you think? Do you want to know what happens? Maybe I should close. No, I'm just kidding. Let's turn the page. Grace Campbell! The gymnasium erupted in loud cheers and a few boos. Mrs. Barrington approached the podium. With 270 electoral votes, the winner is Grace Campbell. Thomas looked stunned. Grace hugged Sam. Why did you do it? She asked. Sam handed Grace his flag. Because, he said, I thought you were the best person for the job. The following week, the students in Miss Barrington's class were preparing for their career day presentations. Grace volunteered to go first. She stood at the front of the room and glanced at the poster still hanging on the wall. My name is Grace Campbell, and when I grow up, I'm going to be President of the United States. This time, everyone believed that she would. And she did. Grace for President. What a great book, huh? I love this book. My kids like this book a lot too. All right, boys and girls. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the story time today and a little field trip. And I'm thinking of you, and I hope you're doing well. And just remember, if you're feeling sad, talk to someone. Maybe your mommy, your daddy, or Grammy, or Grampy, or big brother, big sister, even your pet. Sometimes you can even talk to your pet, and that makes you feel better. Did you know that? Remember that your teachers love you very, very much. Even though we don't see you, we think about you all the time. We hope you're well, and we're sending big hugs and big kisses through the internet. And I know that we're thinking about you every single day. We hope to see you soon. All right. So a big hug, a big kiss, and I'll see you soon. Bye.